Carnival is the Monday and Tuesday before Lent begins. It's like the last hurrah for everyone before they go into like this very strict period of restrictions on food. Like you don't eat meat and you eat mostly fish, and you give up something, I guess, that you like a lot for Lent. In colonial times, it was really, really strict. Like you weren't really having parties during Lent because it was considered, a time of like spiritual cleansing. In colonial times, all of the English or whoever the colonial power was, all over the islands would have masquerade balls for the Monday and Tuesday before Lent. And they would go around to each other's houses and, they would dress nicely and, but it was a much more sedate affair than, say, what we think of as like carnival now. And eventually the slaves started to mimic their masters. And so they would dress up and they would have their own version of a masquerade ball, obviously incorporating the elements that they knew, which was like drumming and stuff like that. So the colonial powers didn't like this. So they outlawed the slaves from having any interest in carnival at all because they were behaving in an unruly manner in the streets. And the slaves continued to have their own like private celebrations. Cut to emancipation. So now, there are no more slaves. And carnival as we know it started to develop a little more strongly because in Trinidad we had a lot of sugarcane. And if a fire got set in a sugarcane field, they would have to wake up the slaves in the middle of the night and they would have to go and cut all the cane before it burned down. So when emancipation happened, slaves kind of took up pieces of sugarcane and set them on fire and led a procession down the streets. And it was like to symbolize the fact that they no longer had to go and wake up in the middle of the night and go cut cane. So that's where the processional idea of carnival came from, where you get together and go through the streets. Post emancipation, like for Trinidad, like they still needed labor for the plantations, so they started bringing in indentured laborers because a lot of our music is now like infused with the sounds of all these other people. So the things like you associate with carnival, I guess, would be calypso, or which kind of developed into soca music. And the steel pan, which was the only instrument to be invented in the 20th century by a Trinidadian. Calypso became associated with carnival just because it was the type of music that the average person listened to. From calypso came soca, which is actually kind of an abbreviation of soul calypso. So they took like soul music from the States and calypso music from Trinidad and kind of fused it together. So like with soca now we have all kinds of different subgenres of soca. So like we have rap so. They heard like rap in the States. There's chutney soca, which is the Indian influence. Raga soca is, we took a little something from the Jamaicans.
I know. I thought it was Jamaican.
It is. That's why, because actually my grandmother like used to call like Jamaican music raga music, which I guess is why they call it raga soca, because to us it would be like raga. This is what my granny used to sing.
Pendo killed the beat.
I don't know who, somebody need to hear this. Y'all speak Hebrew, that's Yiddish. How the fuck you try to label us anti-Semitic? We the Israelites, blacks, native Hispanics. The Germans get locked up for the Holocaust. Meanwhile, black people still up in the Holocaust. 100 million of us died in the transatlantic. 6 million died. Y'all want the world to never forget it. You can never be a Jew. You a Ashkenaz. This ain't a star dum-dum. A gun that would die. Yeah, Yeezy told the truth and got ostracized. Not one person in the Bible had on a yarmulke. We were slaves in America like we was in Egypt. Y'all don't even fit the curses in the Torah neither. Y'all was blind to the truth. I had to make it clear. How Jerusalem, your land, your people came from Europe. That was 1947. Your menorah got 9 sticks. It's really only 7. Yeah, it's us against the world. Armageddon. This what happened when you inherit lies from your ancestors. Y'all the synagogue of Satan with them black hats. Your whole nation sitting ducks, Aflacs. Bunch of thieves and culture vultures ain't nothing kosher. To tell the truth, you vagabonds don't have a culture. Macedonia, Alexander, and Philip, you a convert, so tell me, how the fuck is you Israel? That don't make you the people just cause you live there. Why my people can't hate your people like y'all hate Hitler? All the prophets was black and was called nigga. Y'all don't even fit the description that's in the scriptures. Abraham, all the way down to Jacob, we the real Jews. Y'all don't study Christ, y'all follow the Talmud. Keep it real, yeah, let's keep it real. Cold hard truth, it give you chills. Say y'all Jewish cause y'all ain't really them. About to do them like Hammond, this the Feast of Purim. You BK undefeated, this an easy win. We was born fighting, y'all the evil twin. Jacob took hold of his heel, then out came his little red bass and they kosher deals. It's only 12 tribes, y'all trying to make it 13. Esau despised his birthright, the Lord cursed him. He ain't the devil, who is? I'm still searching. Ask your rabbi, why he give them babies herpes? I don't know what's worse, that or you claiming that you a Maccabee. I'm about to cancel, everybody try to cancel ye. I ain't afraid to speak, that's what I do. They riding to the core, I'm just judging them by their fruit. Cause they ain't suffering curses. If I was carnal, I promise I'd punch you in person. I know this an uncomfortable subject. They making millions off our culture and black people suffering from it. Yeah, they don't believe in Christ. They the Antichrist. Make a living off of niggas. They a parasite. I ain't afraid to tell the truth. Niggas terrified. I'm about to go DEFCON 4. I ain't satisfied.
That is proof. That is absolute proof that they know we are the real Jews. Absolute proof. Now you got the records. Go find me a white Jew on any archaeology in Egypt anywhere. You will never find a piece of archaeology with white people as slaves in Egypt. So don't tell me that they were slaves and it's their identity, and they know it. And I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews. The Lord knows the blasphemy of you so-called white people that say you are Jews and you are not Jews. You are not the people of the law. You are not God's chosen people. God's chosen people are living in the ghettos of America. God's chosen people are in poverty and depression in the streets of America. God's chosen people are walking around in America with no identity. That's where God's chosen people are.
Serious, and you're looking for a Christ man, one who anointed with the Lord, with the Spirit of the Lord, to do His will. I'm that nigga.
One West, 125th Street. Look, y'all put y'all faith in presidents like they gon' change this country. Run the league and let y'all play cause y'all gon' make a money. Fuck Obama, he ain't come here on Congo.
I don't like no soldiers. We the Lord, we don't like no soldiers.
Black, Hispanic, Native, they hate you as the same. Hate Christ and they image, hate you as a slave. God ain't all love, scriptures say he hate. African soft niggas, they know we not the same. School to prison pipeline to get you off the streets. Put you in the cell, totally connected to the saint. Molested as a kid, she prostituted as a teen. The byproduct of Martin Luther King dream. They just took the yoke off, my nigga, we ain't free. We living bleak in these wastelands of poverty. If you don't know the truth, then the lies sound promising. Prophecy, gift and a curse. Dylan started killing, they was sitting in church. Black folk forgave him, man, this shit is absurd. You should never love your enemy, that shit ain't gonna work. Yeah, fuck dying on your knees, you better die in glory. Man, I joined the UPK, taught me the art of war. I took a nigga life like mine to be recognized. I feel that pain every day, it can't be reconciled. Pops banging, my sister a prostitute. My brother got life, and somehow I still found the truth. War ready, no cowards, no excuse. Fuck reparations, you can't bandage no open wounds. Blood on the leaves, body swing hung from a noose. I was on a run in Nashville and I found the truth. I called the school, classes being held by the shock on my life. I want to be a gangster like a cop. Do this for my brothers, real brotherhood. Everything we do, we got it out this book. My nigga, I can never be no African. UPK the only authorized acronym. I'm passionate about my brothers and sisters. We in hell, I ain't got nothing against them. That's another religion. If it ain't under your honor, ain't he murdered by them and got a hug from your honor. That's the way out for a coward in my observation. They don't fear the Lord, they indoctrinated. Wolves in sheep clothing, Joe Osteen. Real priests bringing back black royalty. One West on my headpiece, ranking order. Can't let them trick me off the streets, I gotta raise my daughter. I got brothers at the border ducking ICE agents. I got the name change, it was life changing. My family thought it was a game, put on all black, they said I was going through a phase. There's more of us in jail than it was slaves. Chose.
Somos la Escuela Israelita del Conocimiento Práctico Universal. Hoy estamos aquí. Lord Commander General Yohana ESPK. This is what Commander General Yohana. This is what he did.
First camp, I cut off all my dreads. I took an oath when that oil hit my head. Niggas capping like they lids. I'm a priest, I never stick no fork in no pig. I was dead till I found out how to live. This brotherhood taught me how to be a man. I came back to my roots, I had to dig. A couple gaps I had to bridge. I got a rib, I'm married to this work. You wanna serve the Lord, he ain't in the Christian church.
That's right.
ISUPK, Trinidad and Tobago, under Commanding General Yohana. We will be live on the streets, 91.9 FM.
From west to the depth till they bury me.
Every Thursday from 7 p.m. Hosted by Officer Sawapya Allah and Officer Masquaya.
West to the depth till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me.
ISUPK under Commanding General Yohana. Live every Thursday night from 7 p.m. on the streets, 91.9 FM.
All right, Shalom Israel. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Brakatah to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemai Latan, Ba'ashem Yahushai to all the sisters. Priest and Officer Mathwayak of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, obtained point 14. The Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge started out of One West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. And in this school, we teach the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. What do we teach them? That they are part of the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel. And that the Bible holds your history, constitution, your government. Right? Before we get into the class, remember the school location, 10.14, light pole number 1, Maurice Street. You understand there is any street with Wasa. So you can come into the street, second building on the left, you'll see the big sign, Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. If you want to get more information on the school, give the officer above me, Officer Swapia Yala, call at 479-8286. Captain above him, Captain Mashak Miam, at number 122-701-4640. You can send them an email, you can send them WhatsApp messages, you could call, right? You'll get response and instructions on what they have to do. Again, check us out on all social media platforms, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, for all the for all the for all the info necessary, whereby you can get on the school, keep updated with the holidays, the feast days, different events that the school happen out here in Trinidad. Our upcoming high holiday, the Feast of Purim, which will be Monday 2nd, Tuesday the 3rd of March at sundown. We need more information on that as well. Stay tuned to the social media sites for all the numbers passing below the screen or mentioned above. Right? Again, we have our radio program on the street, 91.9 FM. Every Thursday from 7 p.m., myself and Officer Swapiara will be on 91.9 FM. We'll be interchanging with various brothers from time to time with different topics. So you could call in, get topics with the questions, call in if you have any comments and stuff like that, right? So we're going into tonight's class. Tonight's class will be talking about Carnival because we're in the Carnival season right now. You understand? We had the March Gras, which was Sunday. Most people do not understand the origins of where the March Gras came from. We have Carnival Monday, why it is called Carnival Monday, Carnival Tuesday, for Show of Tuesday, why it is called Carnival Tuesday, for Show of Tuesday. What is the history behind all these carnival events? You understand how it is intertwined with different nations and their culture. You understand? Because it is important that the so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man understand his culture. When you don't understand who you are or your culture, you will be prone to delving into these other nations and their way of life, their culture. You will associate yourself with them because you will be thinking that is the way that you're supposed to go. You understand? Because when you are not taught your way, which is the way of the Hebrew Israelites, the way that's supposed to be taught to you from small, you understand? Something that's supposed to be passed on from generation to generation, showing you so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man that you are the true Jews of the Bible. You understand? But when you are not shown these things, this is what you will have. You understand? The excess of Carnival Monday and Tuesday. You understand? Murders, killings on these days. Salakia unaliving on these days. You understand? Whoredom, adultery, and all manner of lewdness will be taking place on these days because we see the other nations do it. When we see they do it, we think it is right for us to do. But if we understand that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians have their own governance system, they have their own way of life, which should rule over them and guide them to be in a righteous footstep with the Most High, to be righteous with the Lord. You understand? Then you will realize that these other nations and their cultures, it is just vain. You understand? It is just vain and it is not profiting to the so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. We will run into all these celebrations because we don't understand that we have our own way. We have our own customs, we have our own traditions, we have our own way in which we as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians celebrate different events that happen throughout our nation. You understand? And how we also serve the Lord. So we're going into tonight's class. Tonight's class will be the history of Carnival and pagan gods. You understand? Because many people again don't understand that Carnival is just a festivity or a activity after another god. You understand? God called Bacchus of wine and revelry. You understand? It is associated with bacchanal, revelry, and all manner of lewdness. You understand? Things that the Black, Hispanic man and Hispanic and Native Indian man supposed to stay away from. You understand? Nothing wrong with going to a party because you might be on, you might have a work. You understand? It's theory, you have a little work party, whatsoever the case might be. The problem comes in what it is the party's intention. For example, like we'll have birthday parties. We as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we don't celebrate birthdays. So we don't go birthday parties. We might have parties coming for Christmas. You understand? We don't celebrate Christmas. We don't go into these areas and venture into these things because these things is not for our people. You understand? If you could, Baba Kusha, let me start with Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. We go down to verse 8, Baba Kusha. You understand? Carnival is a time whereby foreigners from different countries, they come in to have a good time. They come in, you understand, to add to the lewdness and the vileness of Carnival itself. You understand? When we go now more into the history, we realize that it is a old Roman custom. You understand? Come down from generation to generation, from slave master to slave master, and how we as a people, we portray, you understand, our way with the slave masters Carnival. Meaning that there was a certain point in time that we as a people, we used to mock the slave masters. You understand? Because we was in slavery under them, so we used to mock them with our version of what we will call quote unquote Carnival. And then over time, these other nations, they secretly start intermingling and intertwining different ways of Carnival in it. And we found that it was good. You understand? And here we are today doing all manner of craziness. You understand? When we as a people, we have to separate ourselves from that, separate ourselves from these other nations. You understand? When you have a great conversation. Yeah, come. Yeah, it's about so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian. It's time for us as a people to start understanding our culture, start understanding who we are. Time for us to start understanding the Bible. Time for us to start understanding what was left for us by our forefathers. Moses is telling us here, you understand that we are holy people. Holy means separate, set apart. We are people that are set apart to the Lord thy God. Well, the Lord had chosen us, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, to be a special people. You understand? And they understand to be separate. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Above all people. What? Above all people. Mm-hmm. Lord wants us as a people, as a nation, to be above all these other races, all these other people that are upon the face of the earth. You understand? And in 2026, when you look at Black people today, we see that we continually at the bottom. We're not above. No matter how much we might join them, you understand, in their festivities, or we might join them in their politics, or we might join them in whatsoever way that we think might make us or our people rise, we're still going to be at the bottom. You understand? The Lord saying that He has what chosen us to be a special people to Him. So now we as a people have to ask ourselves or start understanding what does the Lord require from us, for us to continually be that special people. You understand? Why does the Lord want us to be above all people on the face of the earth? Go ahead to verse 7, Baba Kusha. Lord, the Lord saying that He did not set His love upon you, nor neither did He choose you, because you were more in number than any people. That is not the reason why. You understand? Go ahead. You were the fewest of all people. But you were what? Fewest of all people. Lord saying you were the fewest. You understand? When you take these little examples, you'll understand how the Lord operates, how the Lord functions. Not because you might have a pastor and your pastor is all up there and driving Rolls Royce and mega church and he big. You understand? Means that He's serving the Most High. Lord say choose us because we were the fewest of all people. You understand? The Lord will raise people up from the ghettos, the slums, where people feel that Black people can't do anything good. You understand? Raise them up to be mighty priests and prophets of the Lord. He will use them. You understand? Just like our brother who passed away, Officer Karab, in power again. You understand? These is the things that we have to understand. These is the things that we have to know. God is not watching what you have. You understand? Why is we might be watching what we religious leader have? You understand? And how we build these mega churches and all these possessions. The Lord not on that. Go ahead, Baba Kusha. But because the Most High loved you. Because the Most High what? Love you. And because you will keep the oath which Because the Most High loved us, and He will keep an oath that He swore with our fathers. You understand? When you come in this school, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, you have an oath to keep. You have an oath to keep, just like the Most High kept His oath. You understand? That He swore to our foreparents, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Go ahead, Baba Kusha.
The Most High brought you out the mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, from the hand of your.
You understand? The Most High redeemed us with a mighty hand. Out of the what? The house of bondage. Out of the house of servitude. Out of under the hands of Pharaoh, because we were once slaves in Egypt. You understand? Serving rigor under vigorous turmoil. Not these hands of the Egyptian. Just like the Lord going to redeem us again. You understand? As this nation is building and as we coming back together, serving the Lord righteously, serving the Lord the way the Lord wants us to. You understand? Christ is going to make His return. You understand? And save us from under the hands of our enemies. But if we continually partake in the things that our enemies do, the Lord is going to come back. You understand? The Lord ain't going to come back. Because we continually doing the same thing over and over again. Generation after generation. Once you start understanding who is so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, and start doing what the Lord requires, these other nations and their kingdoms is going to fall, brick by brick. You understand? Nation by nation, kingdom by kingdom. And eventually, we as a people, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we will be the one that is ruling the earth, that is separate. Yes, yes. Right.
He is going to come back. I guess you know that generation. People want to hide that generation, just like they were when people time. I have one time back here that time, just to hear that generation.
Right.
Definitely, just have to see before that promise that we already get. So, it might be one fortunate to see that time because I witnessed.
Right. So what for that as well too. You understand? And these is the things that we have to know. These is things that we have to understand. All these things is greatly important for us to know. You understand? Again, knowing the history is absolutely important. Knowing the history, as I remember that time the captain was teaching our class and he said, hey, he was asking questions. And when he asking questions, he said, all you have to understand to study all your enemies. You understand? We will be jumping up and rebelling and having a time with these other nations, and we don't know their history. We don't know the history, you understand, of the atrocities that they have done to our people from generation to generation, that have us in this time still in servitude, still not knowing who we are, still not understanding that the Bible belongs to us. You understand? We still don't understand that till this day. But the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we are here, so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, the gates and the doors are open 24/7, where you can come and start understanding who you are, start understanding your culture, start understanding your history. You understand? Start understanding the ways of these other nations. Because we don't understand that they are our enemies. Our forefather David prayed, you understand? And asked the Lord, hey, don't keep silent, watch what's happening. Keep praying for these things and showed us who our enemies are. You understand? Now we have to understand to come into that right step, come into that footstep as well. Start understanding these other nations, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native. You understand? So when people talking and like a few videos we will touch on it today, like when people talking and they hear they using term African and we culture, it wouldn't be tied up in it. because we'll understand these other nations, these Africans, they are separate people from who you are. You understand? That is why we open up the class with Deuteronomy 7 and 6 to show so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. It's separate. You understand that? So like yes, like you understand that it's separate and you're holy. So when people using terms, you wouldn't be caught up in it, thinking that you are affiliated with the Africans, thinking you are affiliated with their culture and their way of life. You understand? But you will really know who is your people, who is your nation, what is your culture. You understand how your governance system works, and start building with your people. You understand? I couldn't get to send the file, right? So I better read it from on the side. So okay. Right, so we're going to touch a little bit on Carnival. What does it mean? You understand? So the new people listening on, they could understand a little bit more about Carnival, right? What does Carnival mean? The original ancient definition of the word carnival is rooted in Christian and Latin traditions, specifically tied to the liturgical calendar. Now, this is what you have to understand, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. When they start learning the culture of the other nations, they start learning all these holidays and traditions, these customs of these nations, they're going to see whereby it always tied back into Christianity, or it always tied back into ancient Rome or these false gods. You understand? So now the liturgical calendar is the cycle of the season in Roman Rite of the Catholic Church. So you're seeing whereby it's starting back with the Catholic Church again. You understand? When the Catholic Church have done much atrocities to our people from generation to generation. Most of us still go to the Catholic Church. We still think that we are serving the Lord when we are actually serving Caesar Borgia or another god. You understand? The church year begins each year with Advent and the season of awaiting Christ's coming, and ends with the final Saturday of ordinary time. Within the standard calendar year, the church year starts in early December, or sometimes in the end of November, and goes to the following November. You understand? So it's showing you how this custom and this calendar also, how they proceeded from November, December, which means it's starting coming into Christmas. So all these pagan holidays, all these pagan rituals, all these celebrations, you understand? They're saying that they're tied in with Christ, but actually when we watch it, we see whereby it's a lead up. You understand? There's a lead up to all these different gods. Christmas, New Year's, Easter, you understand? As how you're saying a while ago, Valentine, Carnival, and all these different things. Right? So now the church year consists of 6 liturgical seasons: Advent, Christmas, ordinary time, time after, Epiphany, Lent, Easter, and ordinary time. The ordinary time and time after goes into the Old Year and the New Year. You understand? The Old Year celebrations and New Year celebrations, right? Time after Pentecost. Season begins or ends based on movable feasts, and some seasons vary in length from year to year and vary as the calendar date. So some seasons vary in length from year to year, meaning it doesn't fall on the same day every year. You understand? It doesn't fall the same span of time every year. The term derives from the medieval Latin phrase carni lava or carni vale, which translates to carne, which means flesh or meat, and vale, which means farewell. So we're going to get a little more into carni vale or carni lava, sorry. Thus, carnival literally means farewell to meat or removal of meat, marking the period of feasting and revelry before the start of Lent. You understand? I know the Lenten season after Carnival that takes place. The Lenten season is the 40-day Christian season of fasting, penance, and abstinence from meat and other indulgences. So now, when you have your Carnival Monday and Tuesday with all your drunkenness and revelry and lewdness, you understand? We go to Ash Wednesday, whereby we seek that forgiveness, and that's then start preparing for the 40 day of Lent, which is tied into the 40 days when Christ went up on the Mount fast, right? So now we have the pre-Lenten origins. In early Christian Europe, Carnival was a liturgical preparation for Lent. It began on Epiphany, January 6th, the Feast of the Circumcision, January 1st, culminated on Shrove Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday. Communities would consume rich foods, meats, and alcohol before the Lenten fast, leading to Russia's public celebration. You understand? So that is how they celebrated that carnival period on that calendar. You understand? Which will be from January 5th, the 6th, sorry. But we're seeing whereby it keeps changing year after year, the dates. It is always coincide the same as we had read earlier on, right? Pagan influences. Though the term itself is Christian, many carnival traditions, mask, role reversals, feasting, borrowed from older pagan festivals celebrating seasonal traditions, fertility, or renewal, such as Roman Saturnalia, which we know is around Christmas time, December. You understand? Lupercalia in the month of February, Valentine's Day, which is associated with Valentine's Day. And all these are tied into Dionysus and Dionysus, sorry, the Greek Roman god of wine, fueled by revelry. You understand? So now, with this celebration from Saturnalia leading up to this time, Bacchus, Dionysus, you understand? These are the gods that is being celebrated. These are the gods that is being pushed. You understand? And once we as a people don't understand these things, we will be following after another god. Even these people who say they don't believe in God, they call them atheists. They are already following after another god. So it goes to show the hypocrisy and the lack of understanding, you understand, about these customs and about these gods, right? Also, to that leads from there, and but it goes into Tammuz, you understand? Another god, with the Tau, that symbol that we see on the corresponds. You understand? All these are pagan gods tied into each other. You understand? And it leads from festival to festival. Just as you read, it starts November, late November, going into December, Saturnalia, and it keeps coming down. So every holiday that is given to us by our oppressor is after another god. You understand? So we're a little bit again. The key evolution. The term carnival was first recorded in medieval Latin as Carnilave, later in Italian as Carnivale, to denote the farewell to meat. Over time, it absorbed local customs. So it's saying over time, it absorbed local customs. What will be some of the local customs? Like folklore, cultural indulgence, cultural elements, you understand? And different things like foods and music and all these different things. You understand? In essence, the ancient definition of carnival was strictly tied to Christian Lenten preparations. Right? So it goes to show if carnival is about farewell to meat, you understand, drunkenness, revelry, it's showing that it's tied in to Christian preparations. You understand? And most people go into the Christian church, they always prepare for the Lenten season. You understand? And how they say it, carnival, camp, and all these different things. Not knowing and not understanding these things are after another god. And here is whereby the religious leaders come in, because they're supposed to be teaching our people, you understand, the Bible. They're supposed to be teaching them the history of our people also. Give me the book of Isaiah chapter 9 and the 16, Baba Kusha. Right? Because as light as it might look, we have to understand that knowing these things is absolutely important. You understand? It's not just picking up the Bible and reading it only. There are different histories and archaeologies that we could go to, you understand, to understand the different cultures of these nations and the different gods that most of our people with the lack of understanding serve, right? When you have it, word, Baba Kusha. Yeah.
The leaders of this people,
the leaders of this people do what? And this is the Christian church, the religious leaders. You understand? The politicians, they cause our people to error. You understand? Because they teach us year after year and generation after generation that these things is good. They teach us that these things is to be celebrated. You understand? Why in the Christian church you don't hear the history of Rome? You understand? And Greek and Greece and all these different places. Why we don't hear the history of Valentine's Day and Carnival and Christmas? Why they don't go into that? to show the people, you understand, that we're not supposed to be celebrating these things. They are the ones that cause us the error. You understand? Go ahead. They that are what? And they that follow these people, they are destroyed. You understand? They lack the understanding. They lack the knowledge. They will keep doing that over and over. They are destroyed as a people. You understand? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, it's time for us to understand who we are. It's time for us to understand our culture. Time for us to understand the Bible. Over and over, and generation to generation, we still lacking that understanding. Just as the scripture says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. You understand? It's not only speaking about biblical knowledge, so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian. We are destroyed because we don't understand the culture and the way of these other nations. You understand? So we're going a little bit again. So in essence, the ancient definition of carnival was strictly tied to Christian Lenten preparations, but its practices were layered atop much older cross-cultural traditions of communal celebrations and release. You understand? So the cross-cultural tradition will be traditions of different cultures, different people. So now when you see carnival being portrayed, for example, you might see the masqueraders or people playing masks with different cultural traditions. Which we might watch a video with that. You understand? You're going to see how it was before and how other cultures start tying in into something that did not belong to them and did not belong to us as our people. You understand? What does farewell to the flesh mean? Farewell to the flesh. Farewell to the lustful desires of your flesh, because you have done a whole load of sinful and lustful acts. Because over that time, remember, it's drunkenness, it's revelries, all manner of vile things taking place. You understand? Adultery, illicit sex, and all these different things. You understand? And these things is what we have to know and stay and abstain from. Right? We're moving again to the March Gras, because that starts Sunday. Right? So in French, the March Gras means Great Sunday. It's the title of the main carnival event called the March Gras Night. The March Gras, which is Carnival Sunday night, Calypso competition, and the King and Queen of Bands are held. It is a spectacle to begin the carnival on Monday morning or Tuesday. You understand? So we have the March Gras Night. The March Gras Night is where now we will have the Calypso, you understand, and the King and Queen of the Bands. And when you look at it culturally, now here in Trinidad, the March Gras Night will have the Calypso, right? When you listen to the Calypso that is being played, it is the cry of Black people crying about the oppression that is happening to them. You understand? And we cry year after year. And these other nations, they come and look at our cries for entertainment. You understand? Not understanding that Black people under so much pain. That what they could do? Come out and vent it, as we say, come out and sing. But to these other nations, it's entertainment. You understand? When you look at the band, the King and Queen of the Bands, they always portraying something about the other nation, something about our struggle. You understand? And when you look at the whole structure of it, it's Black people who building all these things. All these nice king bands and queen bands, Black people behind it. You understand? And we have been behind that from since way back when. You understand? Listen to the calypsos until the point they're reaching right now where they're starting to censor them. Because they don't want to hear the cries of Black people. Bring in truth. When you bring in truth, you will do what? Wake up your other brothers and sisters. That's why, like, when you look on social media now, they're starting to sensitize their speech. You understand? When they start sensitizing their speech, you have to talk in code. That is not something hard for Black people to do, and that is not something hard for Black people to understand, because we did it way back when with different things like drums and flutes. You understand? When women used to braid men hair, they braid in maps in the hair direction. You understand? So now we're doing what? We're going back into that cycle. Just as Mike was talking about yesterday, like for example, the shofar, another instrument, blowing the shofar to show signs of war. You understand? Intruders coming. It's going back to that. When black people know how to talk in code, it's going back to how the Bible is in slang. You understand? The speech of black people, whereby we are actually say, wait, this shall not be given unto dogs. What I mean? You understand? It's the way how black people speak. You understand? And when black people speak, others could understand, even if it ain't cool. It might take a little time, but even if it ain't cool, they're going to understand, they're going to get it. They could censor how much I want. You understand? These things is in black people's spirit from way back when. Going a little bit again. So now Carnival Monday, right? What does Juve mean? The dawning of a new day. That's why it starts at Sunday in the night time and start flowing into Monday morning. You understand? When the sun rises, the dawning of a new day, right? The dawning of a new day with Trinidad's emancipation in 1834. These celebrations evolved into Juve. You understand? Because Juve is a part of the freedom, being free. You understand? If you watch any different things like Jab and the old mass, it portrays our people in slavery. You understand? And the hardships that we faced. Right? 1835 celebrations evolved to Juve, which is literally translated as the dawning of a new day. As this is the time at which celebration is typically held, rooted in the celebrations of freedom from slavery. Juve has become an expression of rebirth and joy throughout the Caribbean and abroad. You understand? Also, with this Juve celebration, Krampus is another god that our people celebrate with the Juve celebrations when it started off being a celebration of freedom. You understand? Dawning of a new day, meaning the dawning of a new era. Now we start going into what? Celebrating Krampus. Krampus is also tied into the Juve celebrations as well. You understand? That for Carnival Monday and Carnival Tuesday, right? Or Shrove Tuesday or Pancake Day, as it is called. These days get different names just to make it more palatable, you understand, and accepted by our people. You understand? The name Shrove Tuesday comes from the word shrine, which means to confess one's sins and receive absolution, which means forgiveness. So you're confessing your sins from all the things that you did before. You understand? To a priest. It is a day for Christians to prepare their hearts and souls for the penitential or relating to penitence or penance season of Lent. Right? There's when now we're going on fast and give it your body that penance. You understand? Today, Shrove Tuesday has become a secular celebration enjoyed by people of all backgrounds with the primary focus and joy of Pancake Day indulgence. Shrove Tuesday, known as Pancake Day in many parts of the world, is a delightful occasion to gather with loved ones, savor delicious pancakes, and embrace the spirit of celebration before the solemnity of Lent. Right? So Shrove Tuesday coming together. You're coming together to eat, you understand, and have a good time, because now on Ash Wednesday, you understand, you're going to ask for your forgiveness to the white image that they give us, that white image of Cesar Roger. You're going to ask for forgiveness, and then start preparing yourself for Lent, right? Somebody give me the book of Amos. Give me the book of Amos, chapter 5 and verse 21, Bible question. You understand? The Lord says to you, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, no matter what. You understand? We could celebrate Carnival Monday, we could celebrate Shrove Tuesday or Fat Tuesday, and eat all these delicacies and have ourselves a time. The Lord saying that He hates and He despises our feast days. You understand? Why does the Lord say our feast days? Because these days wasn't given to us. So-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. You understand? These are the ways of the other nations. In our culture, in our history, under the Constitution of Israel, we have our high holy days and our feast days. The Lord said that he hates and he despises our feast days. Go ahead, Baba Kusha. Start as well. You pass the mic to somebody else, Baba Kusha. Amos chapter 5, and take it over from verse 21.
The book of Amos, and verse 21.
Yeah.
I hate and despise your feast days.
You do what?
I hate and despise your feast days.
You so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, the Lord saying that he hates and he despises our feast days. You understand? Christmas, the Easter, the birthdays, all these traditions, all these customs, what we gather to celebrate. You understand? And have ourselves at time. The Lord says he hates and despises our feast days. Go ahead.
And I will not spend in your solemn assembly.
And wherever we gather as a people, wherever that solemn assembly is, the Lord says he will not do what? The Lord says he will not do what?
Smell in your solemn assembly.
The Lord will not smell in our solemn assembly. You understand? Why? Because these things, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, does not belong to us. Where Baba Kusha?
From God, verse 22. Though ye offer me burnt offering.
Do you offer me what?
Burnt offering. And your meat offering, I will not accept it.
Lord is saying, though you offer meat offerings, burnt offerings, he's not going to accept them. Because these things don't belong to us. Go ahead.
Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts.
Neither will you regard what?
Your peace offerings of your fat beasts. Verse 23. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs.
Lord saying, take away from him the noise of our songs. All these songs that is being played, you understand? Lord is saying, take away the noise of our songs. Go ahead.
Come, for I will not hear the melody of thy violence.
You understand? The Lord said, you will not what? Hear the melodies of our violence. Hold on. Now tonight. Alright, so the Lord, no sweat. The Lord saying, take away the noise of our violence. I'm trying to get a video to play the bang in it, right? Lord said that he hates and he despises our feast days. You understand? These days that we are celebrating, so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, the Lord doesn't, the Lord said that he hates it, right? I'm trying to play a video before we go into Bacchus, but let me touch a bit on Bacchus, right? Bacchus was an ancient Roman god. If you could Baba Kusha, folks on my point. Let's read this one by the time, please. You come on the side. You come on the side and read the testimony. But let's not get this on. Then we go to Lord.
Come.
Yeah, right, I got that. Yeah.
Come. Bacchus was an ancient Roman god who was in charge of wine, revelry, and fertility. In other words, he was fond of the more carnal pleasures in life. On top of that, this god was in charge of the theater and the arts in general. Bacchus was associated with some pretty wild festivals. These festivals
were known as Bacchanalia and involved heavy drinking and dancing. Many of these festivities took over the city, leading to an abundance of debauchery and wickedness.
You understand? So that is Bacchus here, all right?
Oh.
I'm getting to play at all. So that is Bacchus. You understand? The same Bacchus was associated with some pretty wild festivals. These festivals are known as what? Bacchanalia. But heavy drinking and dancing. And this is what is being portrayed on the streets on Carnival Monday and Tuesday. You understand? Many of these festivals throughout the entire town. In fact, the festival got so out of hand that in 186 BC, the Roman Senate decided to put a stop to them. So now the Roman Senate decided to put a stop to this festival because it started to get what? Out of hand. With all this drunkenness and revelry. The same thing that's happening right now today. You understand? The Senate was concerned that moral corruption and lack of supervision were causing the festivals to run a little too wide. That is why now we have, like, for example, the police, you understand, soldiers, because if you leave it by itself, it will get out of hand. You understand? So now, we go into Bacchus' counterpart, which is Dionysus. You understand? Dionysus was the god not only of wine and fertility, but also of theater, madness, festivity, pleasure, vegetation, and wild frenzy. So we're seeing whereby the Greek counterpart Dionysus, the tradition, you understand, of celebrating Carnival, what it intakes, right? He often depicted as a god with duality. On the one hand, he symbolizes merrymaking, joy, and religious ecstasy. But on the other hand, he would demonstrate brutality and wrath. These two sides reflect the duality of wine as both a positive and a negative. So now on one hand, the same here a glass that symbolizes merrymaking, and on the next hand, you understand, he would demonstrate brutality and wrath. Goes to show whereby the drunkenness, after being drunken and merry, it leading into brutality, which will lead to fights and all these different things. These is the gods that is being served. You understand? These is the gods that is being served around this time. But we don't understand so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, the things that we are getting ourselves into. Even when you look back, you understand, back in the ancient times when Moses went up on the mount, we started to serve other gods as well. You understand? Even in the book of Exodus, chapter 32 and verse 17, Baba Kusha. You understand? We started to serve other gods. Only have it read, Baba Kusha.
The book of Exodus, chapter 32 and verse 17. And when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp.
There's a noise of what?
War in the camp. Verse 18. And he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that do I hear.
You understand? So Joshua is telling Moses, hey, hearing people shouting, you understand? You hear noise coming out of the camp. And Moses said, this noise, that is not war. You understand? When you go down to verse 18, he's saying, and he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry, that cry for being overcome, meaning that these other that they is not crying or fighting or shouting because somebody's trying to overtake the camp or somebody's trying to overtake them. You understand? But he's saying people who singing. The noise that I hear is people that singing. Go ahead, Baba Kusha.
Verse 19. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf.
Saw what?
The calf. And the dancing. Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hand and break them beneath the mouth.
You understand? So Moses get angry because Moses going up to get the laws, going up to get the tables of stone. You understand? When he gone up to get those things, we as a people, we started to serve other gods. You understand? We built a car, a golden car. You understand? A god of these other nations, for example, the East Indians. That is their god. And in that god, in that car, every section, foot, hand, head, tail, horn, is a different god. You understand? We started to serve other gods. And it's the same thing that we are doing today. So-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, following this carnival Monday and Tuesday, we serving other gods. When you look at what you just read, it's hearing about Dionysus, hearing about Bacchus. You understand? The god of drunkenness and revelry. These is the gods that we serve. Once we go into these festivities, you understand? Once we partake in these activities, you understand? That's the night, right? Right? So now, according to the Christians, what are the key days during Lent? Ash Wednesday is the first day of Lent. You may have noticed people with a smudged black cross on their foreheads. These are ashes from the Ash Wednesday service. The ashes symbolize grief for things done wrong and the resulting division of imperfect people to a perfect God. So now we go and we serve all these other gods. You understand? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then now we leaving from all this drunkenness and revelry and all these things we have done wrong. To do what? Come to serve now the perfect God. You understand? Why would we be serving all these other gods, then come and ask for forgiveness from the true God? You understand? But again, so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man in the Christian church, this is just only we are going to be worshiping or celebrating. The white image. You understand? That is not the true God. So when you go and you get the ashes on your forehead, you understand, and you're thinking that you repent, or you're thinking that you change, or you're thinking that you're going to get the forgiveness from the Christian church or from the ashes, it's not going to be so. You understand? It's not going to be so. We're still going to be under sin if we do not keep the laws of the Most High. You understand? If we don't follow what Moses gave to us, we're going to be under sin. You understand? We're not going to be in righteousness on the right footsteps with the Most High. You understand? We're going to continue with again. What happens during Lent and why? The three main things people focus on during Lent are prayer, fasting, abstaining from something to reduce distractions, and focus more on God and giving to charity. Right? That's from the Christian aspect of things. Right? What are the key days during Lent? Ash Wednesday is the first day of Lent. You may have noticed people have smudged black crosses on their foreheads. You understand? Those ashes from the Ash Wednesday service, the ashes symbolize grief for things done wrong and resulting division of imperfect people from a perfect God. Right? Monday, Thursday is the day before Good Friday. So they call it Monday, Thursday. It commemorates the night before Jesus died, when he shared the Passover meal with his closest friends and followers. Now, all these things you call Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man is what they had to take into consideration. You understand? Because all these activities that the Christian church have, it have nothing to do with the Most High, it have nothing to do with Christ. You understand? Monday, Thursday, and all is after another God. Right? Good Friday is the day Christians remember Jesus' death. The good reflects how Jesus' death was a sacrifice on behalf of all humanity, so you can receive God's forgiveness for your wrongs or sins. You understand? And from there we have Easter Sunday. It is the joyful celebrations of Jesus rising from the dead to give the opportunity of eternal life. While people still die, Jesus made the way for people to have relationship with God in this life and to spend eternity with him in heaven. You understand? Again, so-called Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, that is from the Christian perspective. But if we really want to serve the Most High, and we really want to step away from these traditions that was given to us by the oppressor, we need to turn back to the Bible. You understand? Not in the Bible talks about Easter. Easter is mentioned once in the Bible. You understand? But when you do the proper translation of it, it speaks about the Passover. You understand? The Passover this year is April 4th, 2026, Houston, Texas. You understand? Why is the world gearing up to celebrate Easter? I think Easter is somewhere around the 5th. You understand? The 5th April, the Lord's chosen people. You understand? The Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge we are gearing up to celebrate the Lord's Passover. You understand? To understand what the Lord did for us against these Africans that had us in servitude. You understand? Against these oppressors. Every high holiday given to us by the Most High, every feast day, it always commemorates something. You understand? When you look at the Lord's Passover, that is that time where we were serving under Pharaoh, under Egypt, under hard bondage. You understand? And the Lord destroyed Pharaoh and all his gods, all his fake gods. You understand? To set our people out from under their hand, from under their oppression. You understand? Right? We're going to have it again. The sun god, Tammuz, with wife Astarte, Ishtar. You understand? Tammuz was supposed to be reincarnated as Nimrod. All these leads, as we were reading earlier, all these leads up from Saturnalia. You understand? With Nimrod, worshipping at the sun god. You understand? Ishtar and Astarte dealing with Easter. Not the Passover, but Easter. You understand? So we're going to read a little bit about Tammuz again, right? So now, the day when Tammuz was killed by a wild pig, Queen Ishtar told the people that Tammuz was now ascended to his father, Baal, and the sun, and that the two of them would be with the worshippers in a sacred candle or lamp fire as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that is where we get that Trinity doctrine from. You understand? From an ancient custom, from the Egyptians. That is where we get that from. And we thinking it associated with Christian church, we thinking it associated with God. You understand? Ishtar, who was now worshipped as the mother of God and queen of heaven, continued to build a mystery religion. That is why you hear the Catholics and then saying, Hail Mary, Mother of God. You understand? That goes into Tammuz, it goes into Queen Ishtar. So in the Catholic Church, when they're reciting these things and holding the rosary, you understand? They're worshiping another God in the Christian church as well. Right? The queen told the worshippers that when Tammuz was killed by a wild pig, some of his blood fell on the stump of an evergreen tree. The stump grew into a full new tree overnight. This made the evergreen tree sacred by the blood of Tammuz. She also proclaimed a 40-day period, again going back to the 40 days of Lent, you understand, a 40-day period of time of sorrow each year for the anniversary of the death of Tammuz. During this time, no meat was supposed to be eaten. You understand? And you see where that custom came right down into this Lenten or Lent season. You understand? Worshippers who meditate upon the sacred mysteries of Baal and Tammuz and to make the sign of the T in front of their hearts as they worship. You understand? And that T, which is called the Tau, you understand? That also they put that on hot cross buns and all these different things. As we go a little bit more, we go see it, right? They also ate sacred cakes with the marking of the T or the cross on top. You understand? 20th century theologian and scholar William Edward Vine, commonly known as W.E., says that that symbol of the cross was used for the worship of Dumuzid, also known as Tammuz. The shape of the two cross beams, or also known as the Tau, you understand, had its origin in ancient Chaldea and was used as a symbol of the god of Tammuz, being in the shape of the mystic Tau. You understand? We'll take a look at what the Tau will look like, and you can see whereby to when you do the history and you see where it come right down to the cross, the Christian cross. You understand? Let's have to share the screen. Right, so you're seeing whereby it comes down. You understand? It's seen whereby it comes down because it's a whole Egyptian custom of the Tau symbol. It leads from being the Tau symbol. It switched to the Ankh, you understand? And so forth. So we've seen whereby, despite what, or no matter what, we still worshiping after another god, even if it is the the gods of the other nations, right? So now the shape of the two-beam cross, aka Tau, had its origin in ancient Chaldea and was used as a symbol of the god of Tammuz, being shaped the mystic Tau, the initial of his name. In that country and adjacent lands, including Egypt, by the middle of the 3rd century AD, the churches had either departed from or had travested, which means imitate, certain doctrines of the Christian faith in order to increase the prestige. You understand? So they started introducing things from the Christian church. You understand? Ecclesiastical systems pagans received into the church apart from regeneration by faith and were permitted largely to retain their pagan signs and symbols, hence the Tau or T, in its most frequent form with the cross piece lowered and adopted the stand for the cross of Christ. You understand? So now we're seeing whereby the Christians, they took the Tau, put it in the church system, you understand? And now we're seeing the people have the cross on the neck, the cross on the crossbones, and all these different things, you understand? Give me the book of Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31, Baba Kusha. But we as a people, we have to understand so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, all these things, all these gods, we have to depart from it. You have to drop it, you understand, and start following what the Most High gave to us. Even back then, in the book of Ezekiel, they were weeping for Tammuz, you understand? We'll get that scripture as well also too. Because our people, they was trapped. They were trapped and ensnared by these other nations and their celebrations also. That's why our foreparents like Paul and Peter, they were fighting for people to come out of that mindset, you understand? Come out from under these customs and these traditions when they have a Bible Kusha. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31.
Book of Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor.
Do what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
And this is what we have to do, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. We cannot want, you understand, the things that the oppressor have. The Lord tell us, envy not the oppressor. You understand? Go ahead.
And choose none of his ways.
And do what?
Choose none of his ways.
And choose none of the oppressor's ways, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian. You understand? Because their way is not the way that is going to bring us closer to the Most High or keep us in righteousness. You understand? Give me Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 14, Baba Kusha. So all these traditions, all these customs, all these holidays, these are the ways of the oppressor. And the Lord telling us, envy not the oppressor. Don't want these things that the oppressor have. You understand? When the Lord give us our culture, our rich culture, and our rich history. Go ahead, Baba Kusha.
The book of Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 16. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worship the sun towards the east.
Yes, hold on. What? Wait till that 3.
Ezekiel 8 and 16.
No, Ezekiel 8 and 14, Baba Kusha.
Yes, sir. The book of Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north.
Sorry, jump up the verse. Jump up the verse 13, Baba Kusha.
Book of Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 13. He said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house.
You understand? So the Lord is saying, turn it again, because he's showing him all these abominations that is being done. Ezekiel is seeing all the abominations that is being done by our people. You understand? Go ahead.
From Canaan. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz.
The sad woman doing what?
Weeping for Tammuz.
You understand? Back then, our people, they worship this Egyptian god. You understand? The sad woman weeping for Tammuz. So ain't nothing strange, you understand? But we have to understand, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, that we have to move away. You understand? We have to move away from the things that our foreparents did that was against the Most High. You understand? When you go to the scriptures and you see the errors that our foreparents make, we know as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indian man, as this nation, we have to step away from that. You understand? Because all these gods, Tammuz and Bacchus, Dionysus, all these are tied in to old ancient customs of the heathens or of the oppressors. You understand? Old gods from Rome and Egypt. And I tried to see if I could get a video there was to show whereby these theologians and historians, they talking and they showing whereby that the carnival custom came right down from Egypt. It's showing you from Rome to Egypt straight down to today. You understand? But I don't know how it in play. You understand? But it's something, I mean, brothers should go up and look and see the customs of Carnival and where it originated and stuff like that. But it was a real nice breakdown. You understand? Yes, all right. Let's see this here. Give me Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 10, Baba Bishop.
Book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 10. My son, if sinners entice thee,
if what?
If sinners entice thee, consent thou not.
So-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. The Lord is telling us, if sinners entice thee, so now we have birthdays coming up. You understand? We know people that celebrate birthdays, we know people that celebrate Christmas, Easter. You understand? We know people that celebrate Carnival and all these different things. Things that we're not supposed to partake in. You understand? Foods we're not supposed to be eating. The Lord is telling us what?
My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not.
The Lord is telling us, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, don't consent to it. You understand? Don't give in to it. Don't do or follow because they say, hey, this is something that we should do or this is something that we should follow. You understand? The Lord is telling you, don't make sinners entice thee. You understand? Let's see if I can play this here.
In Grenada, Carnival came from our European ancestors. The slaves had to disguise themselves for fear of reprisals. Sometimes they would play with a cloud of powder. So it would be a cloud of dust and then they would all disappear. Jab Jab is a way for us to honor the challenges that our African ancestors went through as former slaves. We therefore, in recognition of them, adorn ourselves in black. we're not slaves recently liberated on the plantation, but it's still a form of protest to different types of encirclement. This is us. We're proud of who we are, and we're willing to show it to the world. It's the greatest freedom one can get. Jab jab, there's no man and woman. There isn't boy girl. There isn't rich poor. There isn't black white. Because we all in skimpy old clothes, close enough to naked, in black.
Now, when I look at the different aspects of Carnival, right? You see whereby, as the narrator talking, and you see whereby he's talking about African and ancestry. You understand? First off, he started saying that Carnival comes from the Europeans. You understand? Let's say you know that Carnival comes from the oppressors, which is quite right. The Carnival come from, we have the French came down here. You understand? With their Carnival as well too. But this Carnival, it didn't originate with the children of Israel. You understand? So he's showing where it come from. Then he goes to say, where he's talking about the rebellion, he's showing now the rebellion, the things that our ancestors went through. You understand? Which goes into slavery. You understand? There's another way or another video whereby it's showing whereby the reason why that is dark of the skin is to show the oppression of the slaves. You understand how those out on the cotton field, under the sun, being black. You understand? And when you look at what he's saying there, he's saying that we honor our ancestors, but see, we honor our ancestors, sorry, and our African tradition, our African culture. So now we're moving from slavery and tying it in with our people. You understand, that didn't go to the oppression of slavery. We tying it in with the slave traders. We tying it in with the people that sold us into slavery. You understand? And as we were saying earlier, if you don't understand who you are, you don't understand your culture, then you're going to think, you understand, that this is a part of you. You think this fight or this revolution or this way is the way that you're supposed to be going in. You understand? When you do the history and you do a little research on it, you're realizing that have absolutely nothing to do with the children of Israel. Because the Africans and you are two totally different people. If somebody could find a Lord putting a difference between Israel and the Egyptians from Baba Kusha. You understand? You realize that that is two totally different people. You understand? But because of what we call something called syncretism, sorry. You understand? Where they merge different cultures, You understand? Different activities, different varieties of way of life of people. They merge it into one. We think that Carnival, you understand, the fight for struggle and freedom with the Africans is a part of our way. We think that is a part of our culture. And that is not so. You understand? Because the Africans had us under bondage and sold us to the so-called white man, the oppressor. You understand? When you have it, you can go with it, Baba Kusha.
Okay. We'll go Exodus chapter 11 and 7. But against any of the children of Israel.
Against who?
Any of the children of Israel.
That is why it is important for black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man to understand who you are. You are the true Jews. You are the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Not a dog.
Not a what?
Not a dog. Move his tongue against man or beast.
Not a dog shall move his tongue against man or beast. Go ahead.
That ye may know that the Lord will put a difference.
The Lord did what?
That the Lord will put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
The Lord put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. You understand? The Lord put a difference between blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. The Lord put a difference between us and these Africans. We are not African, so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. What is the difference that is between us? We was given a separate constitution, a separate government. We was given separate laws. You understand? Where we will know we are not African, we have no affiliation and no association with African people. Even when I go back in history and I read the definition of Ham, you understand? Just reading it quick of these on the Bible dictionary. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, you understand? Which means the father or forefather of the dark races, not the Negroes. You understand? So the people that came down on their transatlantic slave ship, you understand? Ham was not the progenitor of. We are a totally different people. You understand what he's saying? But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, those are the people of Ham. Those are the Africans. You understand? Nelson Mandela and all of them. Those are African people. You understand? But blacks are crossing on the islands in Trinidad and Grenada and Jamaica. You understand? Family came of the transatlantic slave ship. You are the true Jews of the Bible. They are separate people. As you were reading earlier, they are holy people. You understand? But again, once you don't know our identity, we will continually keep adding or associating ourselves with the Africans. And now, when things like Carnival come about, you understand? And it started off whereby we started rebelling against the slave master. You understand? And then they start adding different cultures, different ways in the rebellion. Now, we lost the sole purpose of what we was fighting for. You understand? Now it become a celebration. Now it become having a good time, eat, drink, and over time, it turn into revelry. You understand? Drunkenness, debauchery, it turn into serving other gods. You understand? Just as the scripture says, this paraphrasing, which thou neither our fathers have known. That is what it ended up turning into. You understand? When we hold on to that spirit, we hold on to that way. It's just the way of the oppressors. It's not the way how black people do things. Remember Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 1, Baba Kusha.
From God. The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 1.
Go ahead.
For the ungodly said.
For the what?
For the ungodly said. Reasoning with themselves.
The ungodly said, reasoning between themselves. Go ahead.
But not aright. Our life is short.
Our life is what?
Short.
And this is how the oppressor thinks. This is how these other nations operate. You understand? They believe that their life is short, one life to live. You understand? Go ahead.
And tedious. And in the death of a man, there is no remedy.
You understand? They believe that their life is short and tedious. You understand? When somebody dead, there's no memory. One life to live. There's no remedy. One life to live. Go ahead.
Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave.
You understand? And they don't understand about reincarnation. They don't understand that. They think that when they're dead, they're done. Neither what?
Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave.
Go ahead.
Verse 2. For we are born at all adventure.
So we are what?
For we are born at all adventure. And we shall be hereafter as though we had never been.
You understand? So we are born at all adventure and we are hereafter as though we have never been. You understand? They don't believe in reincarnation. They just want to have a good time. And when the dead is like we wasn't here. Go ahead.
For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke.
For what?
For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke. And a little spark in the moving of our heart.
Right.
Verse 3. Which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as in soft air.
That's how they view life. They view life as smoke. You understand? In the nostrils. After a while, what happens? Fade away. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 4. For our name shall be forgotten in time.
For what?
For our name shall be forgotten in
But
time.
the name and the reputation, you understand, is going to be forgotten over time. Over time, have no remembrance of them. That is how they think. That is how they function. Well,
and no man shall have our works in remembrance, and our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud.
You understand? No man is going to have their works in remembrance. But if the so-called white man or the oppressor not doing anything good, you understand? Come on. We will have no works in remembrance. You understand? This is how they operate. This is how they function, and this is what makes them become vile. Go ahead.
Conquered and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun and overcome with the heat thereof.
Let's say that verse 4. You understand? And they shall be dispersed as a mist is driven away. You understand? Just like our mist is spits. When you see a mist, it will be driven away brisk, quick. You understand? That it's driven away, and the beams of the sun overcome with the heat thereof. You understand? This is how the oppressor thinks. This is how they function. They think life is just about, you know, we drink, we drunk, we have a good time. You understand? We're not looking back, looking out for tomorrow. You understand? When tomorrow come, tomorrow will see about itself. You understand? And once we function underneath that capacity, once we function like how these other nations function, same fate is going to befall us. You understand? We will start operating the same way they operate. We will think life short. You understand? One life to live. That's why most time when people go out and they drinking and reveling and partying and having that time, yeah, but one life to live. You understand? And they will do all kind of madness. Like there's where the adultery and the lewdness and the violence and all these different things start coming in. Not knowing that there's a price to pay, you understand, for the actions that they have taken. Just as the scriptures say, the wages of sin is death. What is the wages? The payments. You understand? Once we sin against the Most High, you understand, we're going to get that payment for the sin that we have done. So again, coming into the understanding of who you are, coming into the understanding of the truth, coming into the understanding that we are people that are supposed to keep the laws, commandments, and statutes of the Most High. And we go realize there are certain things that we cannot do as a people. There are certain things we cannot do as a nation. You understand? You make Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 15, Baba Kusha.
The book of Ecclesiasticus,
chapter 2 and verse 15.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2 and verse 15. They that fear the Lord, they that fear the Lord will not disobey his word.
You understand? They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word. Obey for you, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, to get the fear, to understand the fear of the Lord, you must learn about the Lord. You must learn about the laws, commandments, and statutes. You understand? Otherwise, the fear of the Lord, it will not be on you. That is why we will partake in all these traditions of men. You understand? Comfortable, and we will think that is the right thing that we do. They that fear the Lord, what?
They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word.
They that fear the Lord, they're not going to disobey his word. You understand? All these laws, commandments, and statutes that are written for us by our foreparents, we're going to follow it. We're going to obey. Go ahead.
Conquer, and they that love him will keep his way.
They that love him will keep what?
Will keep his way.
You understand? Just paraphrasing as the scripture say, if you love me, keep my commandments. That's the ways of the Lord. You understand? Go ahead.
Conquer, 16. They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well, pleasing unto him.
They that fear the Lord, they will do what? Seek. You will start looking, start searching out the things that is pleasing to the Most High. You understand? Not pleasing to the religious leader, or pleasing to the pastor, or pleasing to your own flesh. You seek out the things that is pleasing to the Most High. You understand? Go ahead.
Conquer, and they that love him shall be filled with the law.
They that love him what?
Shall be filled with the law.
Going right back to the Most High laws, commandments, and statutes. You understand? They that love the Lord is going to be filled with the law. You understand? Now you will know that all these different days and different ways doesn't belong to you. Now you wouldn't make that error or that mistake, because now you are filled with the law. Now you're following after the Most High. Now you're following after his ways. You understand? This is what we have to know, so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. Give me 1 Thessalonians 5 and 22. Right? 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22. When you have anything, go ahead, Baba Kusha.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22. Abstain from all appearance of evil.
Do what?
Abstain from all appearance of evil.
So-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. All these customs, all these traditions, you understand, given to us by the oppressor. These are evil. When we celebrate these things is evil inside of the law. You understand? The Lord is telling us to do what?
Abstain from all appearance of evil.
The Lord is telling us to abstain, to stop, to don't do. You understand? Abstain from all appearance of evil. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And the very good God of peace sanctify you.
And the very good God of peace, you understand, is going to do what? Sanctify you, make you whole, make you pure. But we as so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we have to do what? Abstain from the very appearance of evil. Once you come into this knowledge, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, one thing I always like to say, you understand, is that you will know everything one time, but the Lord is going to give you enough for you to start doing what? Fighting. Life is about war. The Lord is going to give you enough for you to start fighting against all these oppressors and their ways, their customs. You understand? Remember that time I was in a class with the captain, and the captain said, if you know Christ is black, you understand? And Deuteronomy 28, go to war with that. And when you sit down and think about it, he was absolutely correct what he said. It's better you start a fight than you fight that. You understand? So you coming into this knowledge, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, knowing who you are, or starting to understand who you are. You understand? All you have to do is apply what is being taught to you. You understand? Start applying what is being taught to you. Don't feel that they will make mistakes. Don't feel it will be hard. You understand? Hopefully you'll be, you know what I mean, a bed of roses, because you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes it's going to feel hard. Once you start understanding that there are brothers around you, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, once you start understanding that there are men above you, start applying what they say. Now you're going to get the sword or the armor that they need to fight. All these pagan holidays, all these religions, all these mindsets. You understand? And following the footsteps that the Lord wants you to follow in, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man. And with that, I just want to say, remember again, every Thursday from 7 p.m., myself Officer Swapiala will be on the streets 91.9 FM. Remember to call in with your questions, you understand? Your comments, you understand? Yeah. Whatsoever you might want to talk about, call in, you understand? On the show, we'll be live every Thursday from 7 p.m. Myself and Officer Swapiala, you will see various brothers changing in from time to time, you understand? And you can drop your questions, your queries, your comments. Again, if you don't want to call into the show, drop it in the inbox. The number scrolling below the screen. You can check the numbers below the screen, send the messages there. We answer it on the show. You understand? Also, too, you will be seeing various brothers from different schools coming in on the show after, you understand? These are your brothers also, but we don't understand that we are family because of what we are taught by the oppressor. You understand? We think in our family just subject to our house, not knowing that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we are all family. We are all from one blood. You understand? You have brothers and sisters out in Jamaica and Houston and Brazil. You understand? St. Lucia. All these are your family, but we just don't know because of the things that was taught us by the oppressor. With that, I'm going to pass the class over to Prison Officer Tazo.
The announcement where the ICPA out of oneness of the procedure on your part. Commander General, the honor be used for the sisters, you brought our sister to the school for 6 months. They have to be stupid only. They're here to shut themselves with the world. After 6 months, we brought our sister are interested in a particular person. He or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months which the brother or sister will report each other. After the 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 to 10. Means 10 in Hebrew, and it's pronounced Ma'asher. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives me. In the church department, a teacher. Priest 1. Fuel offering for priests, not monetary. Whatsoever amount they like to get from the Holy Congregation. Feast of Purim, right? And it is the 14th day of the Slack, the 14th and 15th day of the 12th month, right, which is Monday, the 2nd of March, Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2026. You can find this in the book of Esther, chapter 9, verses 20 to 31. Right? The man came to his brothers and came to his sisters to check on social media such as ISP.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISP events and materials. They are on this food and start wearing for black. To include black boots, like shirts, like pants and brown scarf, and say imagine which means to stand. Upon your for which means to turn on these, south means to turn. Say the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew, Abanawa, Shabbat Shemai, Kodash, Ayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Alakota, Abaa, Zaka, Ayah, Aisha, Arat, Awa, Ayah, Shemai, Atan, Nawa, Akam, Ka, Awam, Aslatana, Watna, Aslatna, Watna, Aina, Sayawan, Bob, Shine, Ayad, Ra, Ya, Aka, Amalakwa, Bahal, Bara, Abolami.
You just said in English, oh Father, just to help the number of the how the kingdom come, will be done. As it is in heaven, because this day, our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. He does not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
When the Vajra will give the teacher one to the smooth, the Vajra on the Shabbat, Majam, Ra, Yahweh Shemel Shabbat,
How Shemel Shabbat,
Kalimata, will give the sisters on the smooth, the Vajra on the Shabbat, Majam, Ra,
Yahweh Shemel Shabbat.
Chapter, dismiss.